And good morning. Yeah, it's 3:33, not 4:44 today, but I'm not going to wait another hour and 11 minutes before I start the video. I've been already up. First time I woke up at a little after 1 o'clock, and then I finally got out of bed about 20 minutes after 2 because I was not going to get any more sleep. I knew that, at least not at that time. Today's title, 2012, When Remedies in Law Are Ignored. If people were honest and loving, we would not need laws or remedies. Of course, that has not been true of our reality in this world. The system is very corrupt and unjust. For that reason, many search for ways to overcome the fraud and cruelty of a system that honors deception and dictatorial attitudes that undermine natural rights and freedom. Those ways are called remedies, and they do exist. However, they are not easy to apply, and even when they are applied, the system often ignores them. Is there a way out of this dilemma? Yesterday, one of the tasks that I had assigned to myself, actually, it was assigned to me by somebody else, and my intention initially was to do it, and that is to organize all of the paperwork filed in over 6.5 years in this lawsuit that I've been involved in, organize it in chronological order, etc., and see which documents I have and which documents have been filed that were never submitted to me. In any case, as often happens, I got waylaid listening to Franco Collins' program from the night before, which was a very lengthy listen. And then I actually got to talk to Frank on the phone. And we talked about various remedies and various things that are involved. He personally does not see the remedy of using an ecclesiastical court as a perfect solution. And I'm going to agree with him that so far in this world there are no perfect solutions. There are no remedies that are absolute, that are going to be recognized and paid attention to by those who have claimed control of our world and our individual lives within the world. And so after the conversation with Frank, I continued to do some research, and I spent a good deal of yesterday reading up on things and trying to get my bearings and listen to my heart and let all of this maze of information that has been coming to me over the past several years, actually, to make sense of it and to figure out what the best route is for me in my particular situation. And of course, what I find ultimately is going to be helpful for others, but nobody is exempt from doing their own work and their own research. We're still not in a place where somebody can dump on somebody else and say, make me free. Freedom is something that we lost through our own ignorance and our own slothfulness, and it's not going to be regained except by a willful and purposeful search of our own hearts and of the world that we have built around ourselves in a collective sense. We have created this world that we live in, and we have to deal with what is. And I've long said that we have to build bridges from where we are to where we want to go. There are an awful lot of visionaries that try to visualize a world that's all of a sudden perfect, and they imagine themselves to be there. But that's not the real world, and it's not the world that your brothers and sisters are inhabiting, that have to go through trials and tribulations when you think you can avoid it just by positive mental attitudes and nice thoughts and imaginations. Now, I'm not putting down nice thoughts and imaginations, but there have to be practical ways, which is why I often start at 444, of grounding the heavenly energy, if you will, on earth. Now, I have used through the course of my lawsuit that has been imposed upon me since July of 2005, I have, once I began to represent myself, I have applied remedies as soon as I discovered them by submitting papers to the courts. Initially, it was just letters to the court, and then it was notices of understanding and claims of rights, and finally affidavits. And affidavits has been my strong one, because if they don't rebut an affidavit, it becomes fact in the matter, and uncontested fact regarding everything that's there. And they have totally ignored my remedies. Now, they probably have in their minds just reasons, because I didn't dot my I's and cross my T's exactly the way they would prefer it done. But they have an ulterior motive as well, since the courts, the judges in the courts, are their retirement income is financed by mortgage-backed securities, and when there's a mortgage or some kind of a promissory note involved in the matter, it's a fiduciary decision to be made, and they actually don't even have right to make the fiduciary responsibilities, as Frank was pointing out to me. There is so much knowledge of how the system is broken. But what do we do to get remedy is my big question in my case. And when we get remedy, how is it going to be heard? And say, wait a minute, we've got to listen to this because there's something here. When they don't want to look at that which undermines what they've seen as their power source or their money source, they don't want to undermine that. So their natural tendency, which is the natural tendency of an awful lot of spiritual people, what you don't want to pay attention to, ignore. And maybe it'll go away. Well, it's not going to go away, folks. We're in this world, and it's our responsibility to ground the energy of heaven within our individual selves and ultimately in the culture and the society itself, so that man can finally, at long last, be set free from the tyranny of ignorance and the tyranny of corruption, the tyranny of lies, if you will. We are moving there, and we must move in that direction. The kingdom of heaven isn't going to be handed to us on a silver platter. I'm sorry for those of you religious people that think that God is somehow going to hand you the kingdom of heaven on a silver platter without you learning the lessons that you came here to learn. There's a purpose for human life, and that purpose is to remember who we are. And we are not the people that just simply worship somebody else's sacrifice, somebody else's learning and wisdom, that put somebody else on a platter, even if it's Jesus or Muhammad or Buddha or whoever it is. And I hear you Christians saying, but Jesus died for our sins. He did something that nobody else ever did. Okay, and he died for all of us. All of us. Accept that. Whether it's true or not, accept that in the reality of the myth, of the legend. Accept it. Now, I personally do believe that. I personally do. But there have been a number of questions raised as to the authenticity of how the Bible was created and stuff like that. And remedies many remedies have to come from the Bible and from scriptures, because that is the foundation, or at least the alleged, excuse me, the alleged foundation of the system of Roman law, from which came the system of commercial law and the Queen's law and the King's bench and everything else. It all comes together. Oh my goodness. Oh God. Yeesh. It all comes together in our world today, and there are brilliant minds like Franco Collins and many others in Australia and Canada and England and in British Commonwealth nations mostly. Why? Why British Commonwealth nations? And the United States, of course. Why British Commonwealth nations? Well, whether you like it or not, folks, I don't care if you live in a Spanish speaking country or a Portuguese speaking country or a Chinese speaking country or a Hindi speaking country or what country you live in. English is the language right now of the internet. And people that want to be educated need to learn English, and I'm amazed at how many people around the world subscribe to my channel from other countries where English is not their first language and they don't communicate in English perfectly, and that's okay. I can understand most of the time what is being said. But there are brilliant minds, especially in the British Commonwealth nations, looking and dissecting pieces of the law, trying to find the remedies. And I agree with Frank that even ecclesiastical courts are not the perfect solution to the problem. But there is no perfect solution right now because we're in a transitional state. We're in a transitional period of time where we're moving from the old corrupt and deceptive system to one where truth is king, where love is reborn in our hearts, and we learn to respect each other's individual opinions and each other's experiences. And I believe we will ultimately be able and have the freedom to listen to each other's stories and see the wisdom that was gained in this experience and that experience and the other experience, because folks, were moving towards the kingdom of heaven on earth, and it's being established by the Spirit of God working through creation. That is you and me and all of us, working through us to establish truth and justice and love. Not that they're not established, but to establish them so that they work on this planet and that the injustice is overcome. And that's why I've still chosen to do this ecclesiastical court route, because these are people involved in this court that want to see justice done. It's a court of law, and it's the court of justice. And justice is not being done, for the most part, in the commercial courts that call themselves courts, that are nothing but extensions of the banking community. And the judges have been brainwashed, the attorneys have been brainwashed by the monetary system of the world, brainwashed and sucked in and imprisoned as much as you and I. And they don't see any better. They don't know any better, but they must be made to see. It's our job to put the truth in front of them, i.e. with remedies that ultimately they have no choice but to hear and to listen to, and ultimately to obey and come out on the side of truth, because they have taken oaths of office. And whether those oaths of office are tilted in one way or colored in a certain way to avoid truth, that's irrelevant, because the basic foundation that they're claiming comes from a truthful foundation. The Constitution, whether it was set up by Masons or not, it was predestined, if you will, to be a foundation upon which the kingdom of heaven could be built on earth in this generation, in this 9th, 10th wave that now has passed, and we are in the no time space of 2012, and we are creating the heaven on earth. The new heaven and the new earth are being created right now through you, through me, through all of us. We are coming home. So if you've been discouraged, as I have, because they don't pay attention to you when you try to apply your remedies, understand that that's the way it's been working. Understand that you're not alone. This is a problem and an issue that everybody that tries to apply remedies has. And yes, some people get their day in court. They don't even want me in court. They don't even want to give me a hearing, because I will beat them. If I actually go to court, I will beat them, and they know that, because I will bring their attention to the laws that they are breaking. And they don't want attention. They don't want the light shone on that area. They don't want the candles to be lit. in the areas where they prefer to stay hidden and in darkness and in deception. They prefer that because that's their security blanket. That's where they are. But they must be shown, because these are the people that have usurped our power and usurped our riches and usurped our rights. And they have taken our fiduciary responsibility and claimed it for themselves so that they could use our assets to enrich themselves. And folks, this is fraud. This is corruption at its worst. It is racketeering. It is a conspiracy to defraud. Folks, we are winning the battle, but it doesn't look like it all the time, because they continue to move their pawns, and their pawns are their police forces and their attorneys, and they continue to move those pawns around on the chessboard, trying to escape the inevitable checkmate. But the checkmate is coming. The checkmate in the heavens is already done, but it's not done on earth yet. The job is not finished. It will be finished this year, but it's not finished yet. It's not finished yet. And we must continue to make the remedies that we are applying not ignored anymore. We must make ourselves heard collectively and individually, but individual Lone Ranger thing, that day and age is gone. We've got to stand together, folks. The 99%, the 99+% needs to start coming together, and we need to educate people. You can't force people to learn. You can lead a horse to water, as they say, but you can't make them drink. You can't force somebody to learn these things, but we need to keep raising our voices and shining our lights, because, folks, we're going to win. We're going to win. But we must not lose heart. We must not lose faith. We must not lose hope. And certainly, we must maintain an attitude from the heart of loving one another and allowing one another to be where he or she is in their personal development, and just loving them, accepting them, not trying to enter into an argument with them to prove them wrong. That way does not work, folks. Get it. You aren't going to like it if somebody's trying to prove that you're wrong. Your defenses are immediately going to go up. And when you do that to others because you think you're right, guess what? You're playing a fool's game. Anyway, I leave these words with you today, and I ask you to meditate on them and ponder them in your heart, because they are words of wisdom from the Holy Spirit through me. And I leave you with blessings. And with that, I say namaste.